The stars looked different through Captain Tylex's 4 eyes. Each eye could see a different type of light, making the view from the bridge of the harmonious convergence a rainbow of colors that most species could never imagine. But today, Tylex was not looking at the stars. He was looking at a small blue and green planet that spun slowly below their ship. "Dr. Vesh, what do your scans tell us about this world?" Tylex asked, his voice making a soft clicking sound that his translator turned into standard galactic speech. Dr. Vesh looked up from his computer screen. His insect-like body was hunched over the controls, and his 6 arms moved quickly across different buttons and displays. His large compound eyes reflected the light from dozens of small screens. "Very interesting, Captain," Dr. Vesh said, his translator making his natural buzzing sound like excitement. "This planet has life. Lots of life. The atmosphere is rich with oxygen. The temperatures are stable. There are large bodies of water and vast green areas that must be plant life. Any signs of intelligent life?" asked Engineer Gorthek from his station near the back of the bridge. Gorthek was huge, even sitting down. His gray skin was thick and rough, and his face was gentle despite his size. His people, the Earthani, were peaceful plant-eaters who had learned to build ships that could travel between stars. Dr. Vesh's fingers danced across his controls. "Yes, there are definitely signs of intelligence. I can see structures that look like buildings. There are also patterns in the electromagnetic signals that suggest technology. But," he paused, looking confused. "But what?" Captain Tylex moved closer to Dr. Vesh's station. His 4 eyes focused on the data. "The technology seems strange," Dr. Vesh continued. "It is clearly advanced. I can detect power sources and communication signals. But the materials they use are different from anything in our databases. And the settlements are very small. Most intelligent species build large cities when they reach this level of technology. These beings seem to prefer small groups." Gorthek stood up and walked over to them. Each of his steps made a soft thudding sound on the metal floor. "Maybe they are like my people. We also prefer smaller communities. Large groups make us nervous." "Perhaps," said Captain Tylex. "But your people also avoid dangerous worlds. According to these scans, this planet is home to some very large and dangerous creatures. Why would an intelligent species choose to live in such a place?" Dr. Vesh pointed to one of his screens. "Look at this data. The largest predators on this world are massive. Some of them are bigger than Gorthek. They have sharp teeth and claws. They are fast and strong. Yet these intelligent beings seem to live right among them. Either they are very brave, or they have technology we cannot detect." The 3 alien friends had been working together for many years. Captain Tylex was known throughout the galaxy for his careful and peaceful approach to first contact. Dr. Vesh was one of the best xenobiologists in known space. Someone who could study any form of life and understand how it worked. And Gorthek was a master engineer who could fix anything and build tools for any situation. They had met dozens of intelligent species together. Most followed the same pattern. First, a species would develop basic tools. Then they would learn to grow food instead of hunting for it. Then they would build cities and learn science. Finally, they would reach for the stars. It was the natural way that intelligence grew throughout the galaxy. "Captain," Dr. Vesh said, "I recommend we make contact. The standard protocols should work fine. These beings appear to be at the right level of development for peaceful contact. They have technology, they build structures, and they seem to live in organized groups." Captain Tylex nodded slowly. His species was known for being very careful, but also very fair. "What about their weapons technology?" Dr. Vesh checked his screens again. "I can detect some energy signatures that might be weapons, but they appeared to be defensive systems only. Nothing that could threaten the starship. These beings seemed to use their technology for research and exploration, just like we do. "Good," said Captain Thylix. "Gorthic, prepare the landing shuttle. We will use the standard peaceful contact procedure. Dr. Vesh, prepare your equipment. I want to learn everything we can about these new people." "What should we call them?" asked Gorthic as he began preparing the shuttle systems. Dr. Vesh looked at his biological scans. They appear to be bipedal mammals. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They are smaller than Gorthic but larger than me. Their body temperature suggests they are warm-blooded. They seem to move in a very efficient way. I suggest we call them. Let me check the translation matrix. The closest word would be humans. "Humans," Captain Thylix repeated, testing the word. It has a nice sound. Very simple and direct. The 3 aliens worked together to prepare for first contact. They had done this many times before with other species. The process was always the same. Land near a settlement. Send peaceful signals. Wait for a response. Begin simple communication. Share basic information. Build trust slowly. It was a process that had worked successfully across the galaxy for thousands of years. Every intelligent species they had ever met had been happy to join the greater galactic community. There was always so much to learn from each other. New art, new science, new ways of thinking about the universe. Dr. Vesh finished loading his equipment into the shuttle. "I am particularly interested in their evolution," he said to his friends. "Living on a world with such dangerous predators must have shaped them in interesting ways. I wonder how they survived long enough to develop technology." "Probably the same way most species do," said Gorthic. "They learned to work together, they developed tools, and they found ways to avoid the dangerous creatures." Captain Thylix looked out at the planet one more time. "Well, we will find out soon enough. Are we ready?" "Ready, Captain," said both of his friends. The shuttle launched from the Harmonious Convergence and began its descent toward the blue and green world below. None of the 3 aliens could have imagined what they were about to discover. They thought they were about to meet another peaceful, civilized species that had learned to use science and technology to overcome the dangers of their world. They had no idea they were about to meet the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The shuttle landed gently in a clear area near what appeared to be a research station. The building was small and simple, made from local materials mixed with some kind of advanced technology. Solar panels caught the sunlight, and various scientific instruments pointed toward the sky and the surrounding forest. Captain Thylix, Dr. Vesh, and Gorthic stepped out of their shuttle carefully. They wore their universal translators and peaceful contact badges. The badges would glow with a soft blue light to show any intelligent being that they came in peace. "The air is safe to breathe," Dr. Vesh announced, checking his scanner. "The gravity is a bit strong, but nothing we cannot handle. The temperature is very pleasant." A door opened in the research station, and a figure stepped out. Captain Thylix felt all 4 of his eyes focus on their first human. She was indeed bipedal, with long dark hair and clothing that seemed designed for both work and protection. She moved with a smooth, confident walk that caught Dr. Vesh's attention immediately. The human raised one hand in what was clearly a peaceful gesture. "Hello," she called out, her voice carrying across the distance between them. "Welcome to our world." Captain Thylix was pleased. This was exactly the kind of response they hoped for during first contact. Peaceful, welcoming, and intelligent. He activated his translator and stepped forward. "Greetings," he said, his translator turning his clicks into human language. "We are peaceful visitors from the stars. We come seeking knowledge and friendship." The human's face changed in a way that Dr. Vesh recognized as pleasure. Many species made similar expressions when they were happy. She walked toward them with that same confident stride. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chun," she said when she reached them. "I'm a Zen archaeologist. I study ancient civilizations. I can't believe I'm meeting actual aliens. This is the most exciting thing that has ever happened to me." Dr. Vesh found her enthusiasm charming. Most species were nervous during first contact. This human seemed genuinely excited rather than afraid. "I am Captain Thylix," the captain introduced himself. "This is Dr. Vesh, our biologist, and engineer Gorthuk. We are explorers and researchers, much like yourself." Sarah looked up at Gorthuk with obvious amazement. "Wow, you're really tall. And those skin patterns are beautiful." Then she turned to Dr. Vesh. "A biologist. How wonderful. I bet you have so many questions about life on our planet." "Indeed I do," Dr. Vesh said, already pulling out his scanner. "Would you mind if I took some basic readings? Nothing invasive, just surface scans to understand your physiology." "Of course," Sarah said, standing still while Dr. Vesh pointed his device at her. The readings that came back made Dr. Vesh's compound eyes widen with surprise. "Fascinating," he muttered, checking his scanner again. "What is it?" asked Captain Thylix. "Her bone density is remarkable," Dr. Vesh explained. "Much higher than normal for a species at this development level. And her muscle density. It is almost impossible. Her cardiovascular system appears to be designed for extreme physical stress. Her reflexes." He pointed his scanner again. "Captain, her reaction time is faster than a Zentari warrior." Sarah laughed. "I suppose that's what happens when you evolve on a world like this one. We have to be pretty tough to survive here." "Survive what exactly?" asked Gorthuk, his gentle voice full of curiosity. Sarah gestured toward the forest around them. "Oh, you know, the usual things. Predators, natural disasters, difficult terrain. This planet doesn't make life easy, but that's what makes it interesting for research." Dr. Vesh was still staring at his scanner readings. According to his data, this small human had the physical capabilities of a trained warrior from one of the galaxy's most feared military species. But she seemed so peaceful and friendly. It must be some kind of mistake in his equipment. "Dr. Chun," Captain Thylix said, "we would be honored to learn more about your world and your people. Perhaps you could show us around?" Sarah's face lit up with that happy expression again. "I would love to. There's so much to see here. Ancient ruins, amazing wildlife, beautiful landscapes. But..." She paused, and her expression became more serious. "I should warn you, this planet can be dangerous. The local wildlife includes some pretty impressive predators. Do you have any kind of protection?" Captain Thylix touched the energy shield generator on his belt. "We have defensive technology, energy shields, and non-lethal weapons for emergencies." "Good," Sarah said, though she still looked concerned. "I'll grab my emergency kit just in case. You can never be too careful out here." She disappeared into her research station for a few minutes. Dr. Vesh used the time to scan the surrounding area. "Captain," he said quietly, "the life readings from the forest are substantial. I am detecting several large carnivorous species. Some of them are quite close." "How large?" asked Gorthuk nervously. "Larger than you," Dr. Vesh replied. "And they appear to be actively hunting. I suggest we stay very close to the shuttle." Sarah returned carrying a backpack and what appeared to be some kind of walking stick. "Ready to go. I thought we could start with the ruins about 2 kilometers north of here. They're really fascinating, and the walk will give you a good view of our local ecosystem." Captain Thylix looked at his friends. Gorthuk seemed nervous about the large predators, but Dr. Vesh was clearly excited about the scientific opportunity. and Sarah appeared completely calm about walking through an area completely calm about walking through an area filled with dangerous animals. Are you certain it is safe? Captain Thylix asked. Oh, reasonably safe, Sarah said with a smile. I make this walk almost every day. The local animals have learned to avoid this area mostly. And like I said, I have my emergency kit. Dr. Vesh looked at her backpack and walking stick. What kind of emergency equipment do you carry? The usual things, Sarah replied. First aid supplies, water purification tablets, some food, basic tools, and a few things for dealing with wildlife if necessary, such as... Press Dr. Ves. Sarah patted her backpack. Oh, you know, noisemakers to scare animals away, some deterrent sprays, basic climbing gear in case we need to get up a tree quickly. The standard survival kit for this kind of environment. Dr. Vesh found this answer somewhat confusing. His scanner had detected several items in her pack that registered as potential weapons, but Sarah described them as basic survival tools. Perhaps humans had a different definition of basic tools than most species. Well then, said Captain Thylix. Lead the way, Dr. Chun. We are eager to learn about your world. As they began walking toward the forest, Dr. Vesh continued scanning Sarah with his instruments. Every reading confirmed what seemed impossible. This friendly, peaceful researcher had the physical characteristics of an apex predator. Her heart rate remained steady despite the gravity and the walk. Her eyes constantly scanned their surroundings in a pattern that reminded him of a hunting behavior. Her movements were fluid and efficient in a way that suggested incredible physical conditioning. But she seemed so normal, so civilized. She talked about her research with passion and intelligence. She asked thoughtful questions about their species and their travels. She was exactly what they expected from a peaceful, scientific civilization. Dr. Vesh decided his scanner must be malfunctioning. There was no way this pleasant academic could possibly be as physically dangerous as his readings suggested. It simply did not match with everything they knew about how intelligent species developed. As they walked deeper into the alien forest, none of the three visitors realized they were about to discover just how wrong their assumptions were. The forest was unlike anything the three aliens had ever seen. Trees stretched high above them, their leaves filtering the sunlight into dancing patterns on the ground. Strange flowers bloomed in colors that Dr. Vesh had no names for. The air was filled with the sounds of birds and insects, creating a symphony of life. Sarah walked ahead of them with an easy, confident stride. She pointed out interesting plants and explained their uses. Some were medicinal. Others were good for food. A few were dangerous to touch. She seemed to know everything about this place. This ecosystem is incredibly diverse, Dr. Vesh said, constantly scanning with his instruments. I have never seen so many different species living so close together. It's what makes this planet so special, Sarah replied, stepping over a fallen log without breaking her pace. The competition for resources has driven evolution to create some really amazing adaptations. Gorthik was breathing a bit heavily from the walk. His people were not built for long journeys on foot. Dr. Chun, how far do you usually walk each day? Oh, anywhere from 10 to 20 kilometers, depending on what I'm studying, Sarah said casually. Yesterday, I climbed up to some ruins on a cliff face about 15 kilometers from here. Beautiful view from up there. Dr. Vesh stopped walking for a moment. According to his calculations, Sarah had just described a journey that would exhaust most trained soldiers from warrior species. And she spoke about it like it was a casual afternoon stroll. You climbed a cliff? Asked Captain Thylix. Just a small one. Maybe 300 meters or so? There are some really interesting carvings up there that I wanted to photograph. Sarah paused to examine a particularly colorful flower. The ancient people here were incredible climbers. They built structures in places that seem impossible to reach. And you reached them, Dr. Vesh said, more to himself than to Sarah. Well, yes. That's my job. Sarah smiled at him. Don't worry, I'm very careful. I always use proper safety equipment. They continued walking deeper into the forest. Captain Thylix noticed that Sarah never seemed to get tired. Her breathing remained steady, and her pace never slowed. Meanwhile, both he and Dr. Vesh were starting to feel the strain of the walk, and Gorthik was definitely struggling. Perhaps we could rest for a moment? Captain Thylix suggested. Of course, Sarah said immediately. I'm sorry, I forget that not everyone is used to this gravity. Let me find us a good spot. She led them to a small clearing beside a stream. The water was crystal clear and moved with a pleasant bubbling sound. Sarah knelt beside the stream and cupped some water in her hands, drinking it directly. Is that safe? Asked Dr. Vesh, alarmed. Oh yes, this stream is clean. I've tested it many times. Sarah sat down on a fallen log and gestured for them to join her. The water here is actually quite good. Much better than what you get in most cities. As they rested, Dr. Vesh continued his scans of the surrounding area. His readings showed that they were definitely not alone in this forest. Several large life forms were moving through the trees around them. Most seemed to be keeping their distance, but one reading was particularly concerning. Captain, he said quietly, there is something large approaching from the northwest. It is moving directly toward us. Captain Thylix immediately reached for his energy shield control. How large? Dr. Vesh checked his scanner again. Very large. At least as big as Gorthik, possibly larger. And it is definitely a predator. The bio readings show advanced hunting adaptations. Sarah heard their conversation and looked up. She was silent for a moment, listening to sounds that the aliens could not detect. Then her whole posture changed. The relaxed, friendly researcher was gone. In her place was someone who was clearly alert and ready for danger. We need to move, she said quietly. Now, what is it? Asked Gorthik, his voice filled with worry. Apex predator, Sarah replied, already standing and shouldering her pack. Big one. It's been tracking us for the last kilometer. I hoped it would lose interest, but it's getting closer. Captain Thylix activated his energy shield. The familiar blue glow surrounded him, and he felt safer immediately. Dr. Vesh and Gorthik did the same. Their shields hummed with power. Will your defensive technology work against local predators? Sarah asked, looking at their shields with interest. These shields can stop anything short of military-grade weapons, Captain Thylix said confidently. We also have stunning devices that can disable any organic creature. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious. Good. Stay close together and follow me. We're going to move back toward the research station. Slowly and calmly. No sudden movements. They began walking back the way they had come. Sarah moved with a careful, controlled pace, her eyes constantly scanning the forest around them. The three aliens stayed close together, their shields glowing reassuringly. Dr. Vesh kept watching his scanner. The large predator was definitely following them. It was moving through the trees parallel to their path, sometimes getting closer, sometimes falling back. Whatever it was clearly intelligent enough to stalk its prey. How often do you encounter predators like this? Dr. Vesh asked quietly. More often than I'd like, Sarah replied without taking her eyes off the forest. This area is territory for several apex species. Usually they avoid humans, but sometimes one gets curious or hungry enough to take a chance. And what do you do when that happens? Asked Gorthik nervously. Depends on the situation, Sarah said. Sometimes you can scare them off. Sometimes you have to wait them out. Sometimes... She paused. Sometimes you have to fight. Captain Thylix was about to ask what she meant by that when his shield suddenly flickered and went dark. He quickly pressed the activation button again, but nothing happened. "My shield is not working," he said, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. Dr. Vesh looked at his own shield generator. The device was completely dead. "Mine also. This should not be possible." Gorthic's shield had also failed. All three aliens stood in the forest with no protection except their stunning weapons. "The bioelectric field," Sarah said grimly. "I should have warned you. Some of the apex predators here can generate electromagnetic pulses. It's an adaptation they developed to disable the nervous systems of their prey. It must be interfering with your technology." Dr. Vesh's scanner was also dead. He shook it, but the screen remained blank. "All of our equipment is non-functional." "Then we're going to have to do this the old way," Sarah said. She reached into her pack and pulled out her walking stick. With a quick motion, she twisted something near the handle, and the stick extended into what was clearly a spear. "Dr. Chun," Captain Thylix said, "surely you are not suggesting we fight a creature that can disable advanced technology?" Before Sarah could answer, the forest around them exploded with movement. Something massive burst through the trees ahead of them, blocking their path back to the research station. The creature was a nightmare of teeth, claws, and muscle. It stood nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder, with a body built like a cross between a great cat and a dinosaur. Its fur was dark with lighter stripes that helped it blend into the forest shadows. Intelligence gleamed in its yellow eyes as it studied the group of strange creatures that had entered its territory. Bioelectric energy crackled along its claws, confirming what Sarah had said about their defensive systems. This creature had evolved specifically to hunt things that tried to hide behind technology. The three aliens stood frozen in terror. Every instinct they had told them to run, but their minds knew that running from a predator this size and speed would be suicide. "Nobody move," Sarah whispered. "Let me handle this." The creature's gaze fixed on her, and Dr. Vesh realized with absolute horror that this human intended to fight an apex predator with nothing but a primitive spear. It was impossible. It was insane. It was the bravest and most foolish thing he had ever seen. The creature crouched, preparing to attack. The apex predator lunged forward with a speed that made Dr. Vesh's compound eyes blur. Its massive body moved like liquid lightning, claws extended and bioelectric energy crackling between its teeth. 3 tons of pure predator focused on the smallest target in the group. But Sarah was not there when the creature arrived. She had moved to the side at the last possible second, her body flowing out of the path of attack with a grace that seemed to defy physics. The spear in her hands was no longer a walking stick. It was a weapon, held with the confidence of someone who had used such things before. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Vesh. According to everything he knew about biology, no creature that small could move that fast. The predator spun around, confused. Its prey should have been dead. Instead, it felt a sharp pain along its flank where the human spear had traced a thin line across its hide. Not deep enough to cause real damage, but enough to get its attention. Sarah stood several meters away, balanced on the balls of her feet, her eyes locked on the creature's face. She was not running. She was not cowering. She was studying her opponent the same way the predator was studying her. "Back away slowly," she called to the aliens without taking her gaze off the creature. "Get to that cluster of rocks behind you. Stay low and stay quiet." Captain Thylix wanted to help, but his stunning weapon was as dead as everything else. All he could do was grab his friends and pull them toward the rocks Sarah had indicated. The predator charged again, this time trying to use its bioelectric field to stun its prey before attacking. Energy danced along its claws and teeth, enough to paralyze any normal creature. Sarah dropped flat to the ground, rolling under the creature's leap and coming up on its blind side. Her spear found the soft spot behind its front leg, sliding between ribs to find something vital. The creature roared in pain and fury, spinning to strike at her with claws that could cut through steel. But again, Sarah was not where the claws landed. She had already moved, flowing like water around the creature's attacks, always staying just beyond its reach. While her spear found its mark again and again, Dr. Vesh watched in absolute terror and fascination. This was not how intelligent species fought. This was not tactics or technology or teamwork. This was pure predator behavior. The human was hunting the thing that was trying to hunt her. She is using its momentum against it, Gorthic whispered from behind the rocks. Look how she moves when it charges. She lets it come to her, then redirects its attack. The creature was getting frustrated. It was used to being the apex predator. Things ran from it or died quickly. This small mammal was doing neither. Worse, it was actually hurting the creature. Small wounds covered its hide, each one precisely placed to limit movement or cause pain. Sarah's breathing was still steady. She had been fighting for several minutes against a creature that outweighed her 20-1, and she showed no signs of tiring. If anything, she seemed to be learning from each exchange, getting better at reading the creature's movements. The predator tried a new strategy. Instead of charging directly, it feinted to one side, then swung a massive paw in a wide arc designed to catch Sarah. No matter which way she moved, Sarah dropped into a crouch, so low she was almost lying down, letting the claws pass over her head by centimeters. Then she drove her spear forward with both hands, using the creature's own downward momentum to drive the point deep into its chest. The creature screamed and reared back, trying to get away from the pain. Sarah held onto her spear and let the creature's movement pull her off the ground. For a moment, she hung from her weapon like it was a rope, her feet planted against the creature's chest. Then she did something that made all three aliens gasp in horror. She let go of her spear and grabbed onto the creature's fur with her bare hands. "What is she doing?" Captain Thylix asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sarah was climbing up the creature's chest, moving with the quick, sure movements of someone who had climbed difficult surfaces her entire life. The creature tried to shake her off, but she held on, moving higher and higher until she reached its neck. The predator was now completely focused on getting this small, determined parasite off its body. It threw itself against trees, rolled on the ground, and spun in circles. But Sarah clung to it like she was made of glue. Dr. Vesh realized what she was doing. She's going for the nerve cluster at the base of the skull. If she can reach it. Sarah's hand found what she was looking for. A spot just behind the creature's head, where the spine met the brain. She formed her fingers into a rigid point and drove them into the nerve cluster with surgical precision. The effect was immediate. The creature's legs buckled, and it crashed to the forest floor like a falling tree. Its eyes rolled back, and its massive body went completely limp. Sarah rode the creature down, staying on its neck until she was sure it was unconscious. Then she slipped off and stood beside its head, checking for signs of life. "Is it dead?" asked Gorthic from behind the rocks. "No," Sarah replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Just unconscious. It should wake up in a few hours with a terrible headache and hopefully a new respect for humans." She walked over to where his spear was still buried in the creature's chest and pulled it out with a wet sound that made Dr. Vesh feel sick. The weapon was covered in the predator's blood, but Sarah calmly wiped it clean on some grass before collapsing it back into a walking stick. "You can come out now," she said to the aliens. "It's safe." The three friends slowly emerged from behind the rocks. They moved like people in a dream, unable to fully believe what they had just witnessed. Dr. Vesh approached the unconscious predator with his scanner, forgetting that it was still not working. Even without instruments, he could see that the creature was enormous. Its claws were longer than his fingers. Its teeth could easily bite his Zentari in half. Its muscles were like cables under its thick hide, and this small human had defeated it with her bare hands and a simple spear. "Dr. Chun," Captain Tylek said slowly, "what you just did. It should not be possible." Sarah looked confused. "What do you mean?" "That creature," Dr. Vesh explained, "is easily 20 times your body weight. Its claws can generate bioelectric fields that should have paralyzed you. Its reflexes should be faster than yours. Its strength should be overwhelming." "Well, yes," Sarah agreed. "But it was also predictable. Big predators like this one rely on intimidation and brute force. They are not used to prey that fights back intelligently. Plus, I have been studying the anatomy of these creatures for months. I know exactly where their weak spots are. But the physical requirements," Dr. Vesh continued, "the speed, the agility, the endurance. According to my understanding of biology, you should not be capable of such feats." Sarah looked even more confused. "I'm really not that unusual. Any human with basic combat training could have done the same thing. We learned this stuff in school." The three aliens looked at each other with growing horror. If Sarah was not unusual among her species, if this was basic training for humans, then what exactly had they discovered on this peaceful little planet? The answer was becoming terrifyingly clear. The walk back to Sarah's research station was the longest journey of Captain Tylex's life. With each step, the reality of what they had witnessed settled deeper into his mind like ice forming in his veins. Sarah walked ahead of them as before, but now everything about her movement looked different. What had seemed like casual confidence before now revealed itself as the fluid grace of an apex predator. Her constant scanning of their surroundings was not curiosity but hunting instincts. Her easy pace across difficult terrain was not fitness, but the effortless movement of something built for pursuit. "Dr. Chun," Dr. Vesh said carefully as they walked, "may I ask about your education? You mentioned learning combat in school." "Oh, sure," Sarah replied cheerfully. "Everyone learns basic self-defense and survival skills. You have to on a world like this. I specialized in wilderness survival and hand-to-hand combat because of my fieldwork, but really, any adult human knows how to handle dangerous animals." "Any adult human," Captain Tylex repeated slowly. "Well, yes. You can't exactly call yourself an adult if you can't protect yourself and others from basic threats. That's just common sense." Sarah paused to examine some tracks in the dirt. "These are from the pack that lives about 3 kilometers west of here. Probably hunting the deer-like creatures near the river." Gorthik found his voice. "Pack? Oh, these apex predators usually hunt in groups of 5 or 6, Sarah explained. "Much more dangerous than a single one like we just dealt with. If we had run into a pack, things would have been much more serious." Dr. Vesh felt his legs weaken. "More serious?" "Well, yes. One predator, you can fight directly. A pack requires different tactics. You have to separate them, use the terrain to your advantage, maybe set some traps. It's a lot more complex." Sarah's voice carried the tone of someone discussing a mildly interesting technical problem. The 3 aliens exchanged looks of pure horror. When they reached the research station, Sarah invited them inside for what she called refreshments. The building was small but comfortable, filled with scientific equipment, books, and artifacts from her archaeological work. Sarah moved around her kitchen with the same efficiency she had shown in combat, preparing drinks and snacks for her guests. Dr. Vesh noticed that even her domestic movements had a predatory quality. She never wasted motion. She was always aware of her surroundings. Her hands, which had driven a spear through thick hide just minutes before, now gently prepared tea. Sarah, Captain Thylak said carefully, may I ask about your species' evolution? How did humans develop these abilities? Oh, it's pretty straightforward, Sarah said, setting cups of tea in front of them. Our planet has always been dangerous. Lots of large predators, natural disasters, climate changes, things like that. The humans who survived were the ones who could adapt, fight, endure, and work together. Over millions of years, evolution selected for those traits. But you also developed intelligence and technology, Dr. Vesh pointed out. Well, yes. Intelligence was probably our most important survival trait. Being smart let us make tools, develop strategies, and pass knowledge to our children. But intelligence without physical capability would have been useless. A smart human who couldn't fight or run would still be dead. Sarah sipped her tea calmly while the three aliens tried to process what she had just said. Dr. Chun, Captain Thylak said slowly, in our experience, most species develop intelligence as an alternative to physical prowess. They become smart because they are not strong or fast enough to survive through force. Sarah looked puzzled. That seems like it would be a disadvantage. Why not be both smart and strong? Because Dr. Vesh started, then stopped. He realized he had no good answer for that question. Sarah continued, intelligence is great for solving problems and making plans. But sometimes you need to be able to act on those plans. Sometimes you need to be able to protect your friends or your family. Sometimes you just need to survive until you can think of a better solution. Captain Thylak's translator was working perfectly. But the words he was hearing seemed to come from a completely different universe than the one he knew in the galaxy. Intelligence meant safety from physical threats. Civilization meant protection from dangerous animals. Technology meant never having to risk your life in personal combat. But humans had apparently developed all of these things without giving up their ability to kill large predators with their bare hands. Sarah, Gorthik asked quietly, are there many humans like you? Like me, how? Sarah asked. Capable of what we witnessed today. Sarah laughed. Oh, I'm probably below average, actually. I spend most of my time doing research, not training. If you really want to see impressive physical capability, you should meet a human soldier, or an athlete, or someone who works in dangerous professions. Those people are seriously tough. The room fell silent, except for the gentle bubbling of Sarah's tea. Dr. Vesh's mind was working frantically, trying to understand the implications of what they had learned. According to his calculations, an average human had the physical capabilities of an elite warrior from any of the galaxy's known military species. A trained human would be... He could not even calculate what a trained human would be capable of. Dr. Chun, he said carefully, how many humans are there? On this planet? Just me and a few other researchers. But overall? About 8 billion, last time I checked. Growing pretty steadily, too. 8 billion apex predators with space technology. Captain Thylak felt something he had never experienced in all his years of exploration. Genuine terror about making contact with a new species. Dr. Chun, he said, we should return to our ship now. We have a lot to report to our people, of course. Sarah said brightly, thank you so much for visiting. This has been the most exciting day of my life. I hope we can stay in touch. I have so many questions about your cultures and your technologies. As they prepared to leave, Sarah hugged each of them goodbye. The gesture was clearly meant to be friendly and affectionate. But Dr. Vesh could not help but notice how strong her arms were, how her hands could easily reach vital points on his body. She waved as their shuttle lifted off, completely unaware that she had just redefined humanity's place in the galaxy. On the ship, Captain Thylak sat at his computer terminal, staring at the form he needed to fill out. The Galactic Council required a threat assessment for every new species encountered. He had been planning to mark humans as peaceful and low risk. Instead, he found himself typing words he had never used before. Species. Classification. Extreme caution. Required. Threat level. Apex predator. Death world. Origin. Recommended contact protocol. Diplomatic missions only. No military contact. No territorial disputes. No aggressive actions of any kind. Additional notes. This species appears to have developed advanced technology without losing any of their predatory capabilities. They are apex predators who chose to build universities instead of just hunting other apex predators. Recommend immediate notification of Galactic Defense Council. Dr. Vesh looked over his shoulder as he typed. Do you think they will believe our report? Captain Thylix thought about Sarah, calmly sipping tea after defeating a creature that could have destroyed their shuttle. I think, he said slowly, that we're going to have to provide a lot of evidence. Gorthik was looking out the window at the blue and green planet below. She seemed so nice, he said sadly. I liked her. That, said Captain Thylix, might be the most terrifying thing of all. As the harmonious convergence jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would change galactic civilization forever, Sarah Chun returned to her work cataloging ancient artifacts, completely unaware that she had just become the most important human in history.